Finds himself behind Wellington Castillo, but seems like Wade Miley's personal catcher. How's that going for you this year, Caleb?
Well, it's going great so far. Wade's had some really good success. By no means I'm going to start taking credit for that. He's been the one throwing the ball, but I think we've worked well together, and sometimes you just kind of click. It's up to Buck Showalter at the end of the day who catches, and I'm sure Wade would be fine with Wellington. He's a fine catcher as well. It's one of those things where we're trying to get the ball rolling and keep continuing what he's done the past two starts.
Well, the two starts kind of different, though. First start, 7 walks. Last start, he was dominant. What did you see the difference was?
Yeah, I think he was just throwing a lot more strikes, obviously. Doesn't take a genius to really figure that out. But I think his stuff, I think when he really trusts his stuff and trusts that he can be in the zone with his sinker and his curveball and his slider and changeup, that he's going to get ground ball outs and let this, really gold glove caliber defense work for him. I think he's not trying to throw balls, but I think he was amped up for that first start against New York, and he was missing, on the other side of the plate, and just mechanically he was a little bit off, and we kind of slowed him down a little bit. He didn't give up a hit, which is interesting, but it's one of those things that, he's a veteran. He's been around a long time, and just kind of continuing to trust that when his tempo is good, when he has that fine tempo of throwing good quality strikes and keeping us engaged in the game and not rushing, we usually get good results.
Well, he works fast. So are there in-game adjustments that you might help him with?
Yeah, you feel that as a catcher. You feel when the quality of the pitch is lacking a little bit, and sometimes it is because of that rush tempo. And you don't want to take that away from him, because that's a great asset, especially with our defense, is you want to keep them engaged and keep the game flowing, and that's one thing he does really well. There are ways, tips and tricks that you can kind of slow him down without having to make a trip, maybe throw the ball back a little bit slower, maybe take a second or two to give your sign, stuff like that. But he did a great job in Toronto, and we're going to try and repeat that again tonight.
He sure did. Well, how about you, Caleb? How do you keep yourself sharp? And I watch you every day on the bench. It seems like you're in Wellington's ear. You're talking to the pitchers. It almost seems like you're preparing yourself to be the starter every night anyway. Yeah,
you have to, really. You've got to stay engaged, because you never know when something happens and you need to go into the game, such as, that game against Toronto. We had an extra inning game, and we had a move, and Drencher ran in and pinch ran for Wellington. You were in the game. So if you're not really paying attention, you don't want to repeat sequences and stuff like that. So that's part of the job description as a backup catcher, is to stay engaged in it. And it's interesting. It took pretty much an entire year to kind of figure that out, because I had really only, played no more than, I played about 100 games, really every single year. And then you get to a kind of a backup role, and you have to learn and figure out how to stay engaged and things you need to be prepared for and do. It's not just a day off. So it's become, a learning process. But I think this year I fit in a little bit better. I kind of know what to expect, and I know what I need to do to prepare myself.